Ooh, that's some hot oolong. Well, I guess let's start by talking about the difference between hot tea and iced tea. It's something you certainly already know. Yeah. But just think about how different hot tea is from warm tea, is from cool tea, is from cold tea. Have you ever considered that cool tea sounds kind of like cruelty? I don't want to go there so much today because I want to talk about the nurturing of beings like tea and about moon. So I'm on this trip right now of spending some time with each day of the week with the planet magically assigned to that day of the week, or was it the other way around? And of course, Moon Day. Monday is Moon Day, right? Um, so there are so many different topics we can get into with Moon. Moon is the fast astrology teacher. Yeah. I mean, Moon moves most quickly through the zodiac. That's why we call that west to east motion through the zodiac, at least when direct, as the luminaries, Moon and Sun, always are, moonwise, because Moon moves through the constellations and through the signs, which, by the way, are different things, at the greatest rate, at the greatest speed. Of course, it takes Sun a year to circle zodiac, yeah? For Moon, 27 and a third days, the tropical month. Or if you look moon, star, back to moon, same star, like right now as I'm reporting today on November 6, 2023, Monday, the day of the moon. It is currently 7:55 a.m. here in Richmond, California, with the last degrees of Scorpio on the rise. Moon is at 28 degrees tropical Leo, which is very close to the heart of the lion, Regulus. The royal star, it said, rules them all. The granite star. Oh, wait, that's not granite at all. That mistake has been made. Anyway, let's not get into magical stones right now. But, it's a strange thing in our day and age that the heart of the lion, Regulus, now resides in the first degree of tropical Virgo. It really brings in the challenge of signs and constellations being different things, whether you're practicing as a sidereal 12 equal sign astrologer or a tropical, especially tropical, right? So in 2011 or 2012, depending on your maths, Regulus processed into 150 degrees celestial longitude. It's like, what, nerd? Yeah, that's me, T. 150 degrees celestial longitude, and of course we, and yes, the astronomers, measure celestial longitude from the point called zero Aries. Now, the astronomers of our day won't call it zero Aries. Siderealists don't call it zero Aries, but tropical astrology always has. It's simply the place where the ecliptic, the plane of the year, norths across the equator, the plane of the day. And in this sense, it's like a node, an intersection of two celestial circles. It's like the north node of Earth and Sun. Because Earth, the daily motion, our day, sunrise to sunset and rise again. And our Earth's annual motion, our revolution, the year, right? So the day equator, the year ecliptic. All right. And that sunrise, reach, rest, root, the sun through the houses of the chart. The sunwise motion, the northern hemisphere sky, this is clockwise, which we used to call sunwise. Depending on where you're watching this thing, my arms might be moving clockwise or not. If you're in the southern hemisphere, that sunwise motion of the sun through the houses of your sky above the ground is actually counterclockwise anyway, right? It's one of the issues of the seasonal opposition, depending on where on Earth you stand. But that motion of the planets through the houses, we call sunwise. Why? Because it's most dramatically expressed by sun. Moonrise, moonset are amazing things to behold, but that doesn't take us from day to night or from night to day. Do you know what I mean? That's a solar thing, and it's really an terrestrial thing. The sun rises because Earth is falling, bowing in that direction. The sun sets because Earth is climbing to meet him, you see? The marriage of heaven and earth there in the West, a place we associate with relationship. All right, well, before I get into the trip, I want to make sure we have some data to work with for the end of this. I have probably 25 minutes, by the way, because it's a slew of client sessions today, and I want to do a little homework before we meet. Not too much, though, because I don't like to arrive to a reading with an agenda beyond what my client writes as their intention. And if I start looking at the chart and what's happening now in respect to the moment of that native's becoming, then I come in with all these ideas of what they should be hearing. And that's not up to me. In a sense, it is up to the planets, I would suggest. And what am I but a terrestrial translator of the celestial conversation? But, for me, we want to start with the client. My first mantra in any session, heart before chart. My second mantra, may the wisdom of this beautiful being speak through me, right? And so what they wish to hear, not what I wish to say, is what matters most. And an important reminder, because, I'm not always geared that way, right? Okay, so collecting some data, because I want to speak today about seasons of the moon. And we'll actually talk seasons of sun, earth, and moon. So if you will, please write your sun, moon, rising sign and your place of birth. And we'll get to do a few examples here at the end, because I don't want this teaching side of the trip to be too long. So we see one already kind of beat me to it. This proximity of the Leo ascendant and the Gemini sun. Well played. Pisces moon. Okay, so we'll be there. Thank you, Stephanie. And anyone, if you'd like, please put up sun, moon, rising sign, place of birth. Stephanie, you're all right. I know you're born in the Northern Hemisphere. Cool. And then I just want to read also this from Discerning Light. My true North Node is 0 in Aries, right? Which means you were born at the time of the year, or the time of the nodal transit. It's an 18.6 year thing for the lunar nodes, the places from Earth's point of view where the paths of the sun and the moon intersect, right? When the North lunar node is at 0 Aries. And by the way, not sidereal Aries, not constellational Ram, but tropical Aries, which is this northern node of the Earth-Sun relationship where the plane of the year, ecliptic, passes over, where have I heard that before? The plane of the day, equator. And when the sun is on the cross, where have I heard that before? At Easter time. Wait, hold on, let's put all that away. Anyway, the north node of moon and sun at the north node of earth and sun, which is 0 tropical Aries. Again, not constellational, not star-based, heavenly circle-based, earth astronomy-based. That's when we are at the height of the lunar maximums. And that's a very relevant time to have that discussion, but it's also a very long discussion. When we talk nodes, it's probably also important to talk eclipses. Yeah. But taking eclipses out of nodes, what are the nodes themselves? Planetary, all planets have nodes, but what about the lunar nodes? What about north-south node, which used to be called ascending and descending nodes, right? So on another moon day, probably the moon's nodes want to be discussed. There's so many options with the moon, and I can't do them all. My intention, should I start doing this regularly, which means I need to set time in my calendar for it, is that Monday, moon day, would be when I do a weekly forecast, because we can just follow what the moon is up to. Yeah, moon who moves so fast. So right now, for example, and you might be hearing it here, from a modern astrology point of view, the moon is void of course. Why? Because she's made her last aspect from tropical Leo before she jumps the wall, currently marked by the heart of the lion, Regulus, in our sky. into tropical Virgo. And then she will translate the light of the first meeting she makes in that sign to that of her next. So as soon as Moon enters Virgo, she opposes Pisces Saturn. And by the way, that's on the news. That Moon will then carry that opposition from Virgo to Pisces Saturn to Jupiter through a trine. Virgo Moon trine Taurus Jupiter might be good news. But what is the oppositional energy of Pisces Saturn, which by the way feels pretty religious, to Taurus Jupiter, which might feel kind of religious, including religions like, oh, I don't know, tropical astronomy, which is mine. Anyway, I want to not go there right now. And I don't want to talk about nodes right now. Next Monday will be easy should these things continue. And by the way, like your likes, your support, your sharing these videos around, your comments especially, that's what's going to keep these videos going. So sorry to need that type of currency. If you have that kind of currency to offer a little love, a little support, which by the way, I already feel in the present of your presence. Yeah. But supporting these, transmissions, giving it some love, right? It's going to keep them going. That for me right now is the only currency that I'm asking for. And you hear me asking for it because I want to know if they're doing anything. Yeah. And also if you wrote something like, hey, if these were 5 minutes long, I could tune in. Dude, I don't have an hour every day. I understand. All right. So next Moon Day, should these persist, it will be quite easy to pick a theme for Moon because it will be Scorpio new Moon. For my Monday, right, the way that my calendar works here in California, a week from today, Moon will meet Sun at 21 Scorpio, conjunct Scorpio Mars, and opposite Taurinus. So there's a lot to speak about there. I mean, even though that will be the first syzygy, the alignment of the three things, Earth, Moon, and Sun, that is not an eclipse. And some look at that as the time that the eclipse season closes. There's a good question of whether it actually ever does. That conjunction, that alignment with Scorpio, Mars, opposite Taurus, Uranus, that's a big deal. And by the way, we're already in that. We're already feeling that. Okay. So before I get into the seasons of the moon and playing with some seasons of the big three, and thanks to the many of you who have added your sun, moon, and rising signs to the mix, it's important that I have your place of birth. So I'll tend to those ones first. To do what I'd like to do today, to speak about seasons of sun, moon, and earth. Let me say just a couple of, one very significant thing that's happening with Moon this week. Moon, when she conjoins Venus, shortly after Venus's homecoming. What do I mean by that? Venus is moving into tropical Libra. And let me show you that day. Ingress. Venus moves into Libra. November 8th, Wednesday, Mercury's day, 1:30 a.m. Pacific time, Venus ingress Libra. And Venus will be in Libra from November 8th until December 4th, right? So what might we have there when this goddess of harmony is in that place that we associate with balance and peace? Oh, can I allow myself to dream? Anyway, shortly after Venus ingresses Libra on November 8th, Moon will conjoin Venus, as she does every month. But this will be a very special type of conjunction. This is November 9th, 2023, 2:23 a.m. Pacific. Moon conjunct Venus, 1 degree, 7 arc minutes of tropical Libra. A special type of conjunction that sadly here in California I will not be able to witness, but I shouldn't complain because I've recently been able to see moon occult Mars and moon occult Jupiter. I will not see this moon Venus occultation that will be seen in all of Europe, clouds allowing, and maybe in the Middle East. I need to look to the tables a little bit more and really probably just go to some astronomy software. Now, though Friday is Venus's day, I will probably speak about that some on Wednesday before moon occults Venus. The moon Venus conjunction already a very sacred time in the Venus cycle, the way that the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, now the Turning of the Ages Mystery School, works with these moon Venus conjunctions, is they are the gates of Inanna's descent into the underworld and ascent from, and this is called the throat chakra gate. So I'll just say it opens a portal of a month of hearing and speaking truth, and more importantly, with Venus falling, the fallen angel, as I spoke about last Friday, as a morning star. And, I literally got fact checked for saying a word that sounds like Lucy in the sky with fur, right? Which is hilarious. Yes. Anyway, that with Venus descending or falling, the descending goddess, the morning star, these moon Venus gates speak about Inanna's descent into the underworld, where she must release the heavenly me, the holy me, the sacred adornments, if you know the great tale from Sumer of Inanna's descent. And this third gate is the double strand lapis lazuli necklace. It's very much throat chakra. Yeah. So we're still in the last days of third eye chakra. And the question here is, what is keeping me from perceiving reality and maybe even like creating reality, which is one of the functions of the light that changes, right? Third eye, like moon. So be careful where you're getting your news. And this is a good time to destroy any false sources of information in your personal experience, because as Venus is falling as the morning star, we want to clear the clutter, right? So when we go through the throat chakra month, moon Venus, until the next moon Venus gate, so that will be from November 9th, moon conjunct Venus in Libra, to December 9th, moon conjunct Venus in Scorpio. What is limiting you from speaking truth? Is the answer YouTube? I'm sorry. I think self-censorship is actually a little bit more interesting here, but of course there is a lot more global construct of censorship and media construct of censorship than I've ever experienced in my life. All right. And so again, because this occultation of Venus by moon, which by the way is like an eclipse, right? Instead of moon occulting the solar disk, the solar eclipse, moon will occult Venus. Now, it depends on where on Earth you're standing, okay? So where it happens, when it happens here, moon and Venus won't have risen yet. They're beneath the ground. And I can't see through the ground, okay? But also, if they're already above the ground and the sun has not yet risen, moon and Venus will be in your sky, but it's going to look different depending on where on Earth you are, okay? So like for me, like you are currently occulted by this beautiful hexagon. But if I was just living here, you're not. Do you see what I mean? So this is called parallax, and it very much will determine where clouds allowing an occultation, like November 9th's occultation of Venus by moon, is visible from. All right. And for the one coming up, like all of Europe, that's interesting. Oh my gosh, it used to be the main stage of people's awareness, and suddenly that went away. Maybe in the Middle East, it's kind of hard to read the occultation maps for me. So I'm going to go to Stellarium Astronomy software and see if that can help me understand if I turn the parallax button on and take a look. All right. Anyway, another thing, that we'll probably get into on a moon day is more discussion of the moon's nodes, but actually on November 9th, the day that moon occults Venus for some earthly eyes, I'm so excited to be teaming up with Julius Simas of Cosmic Intelligence Agency. And I am too. I'm an agent of the agency, as is Luis Ribeiro, who's one of his books I'm going to throw onto your screen right now. On the Heavenly Spheres, Luis Ribeiro with Elena Avalar. I should say and. So Elena Avalar and Luis Ribeiro. And I want to speak a little bit about one of the teachings in this text today. But I want to first invite you to this free transmission that Yulia, Luis, and I will be offering on November 9th, 2 p.m. Pacific. It's really easy math to do. November 11th month, I guess. 9, 11 minus 9 is 2. 11, 9, 2 p.m. Pacific. Now, some of you will call 11, 9, 9, 11. Interesting. And for some of you, it will be November 10th. Like those of you in Australia. So I just created a little pretty link to make it easy for you to go register for free. And there you will see the time zone for your local experience. And so go to GeminiBrett.com/nodes, Nodes. Gemini Brett, by the way, has Gemini T's, 2 T's. I just want to make sure this thing's working. Because I didn't test it yet. Yeah, GeminiBrett.com/nodes will take you to a space where you can register for free for this discussion of the North and South lunar nodes from Northern and Southern Hemisphere views. And I'll explain there, if somebody doesn't beat me to it, why I'm sure these names change from ascending node and descending node to north and south node, because ascending and descending, it's a local observation, where north and south is global. And I'm excited to share more of, how I came into the importance of this understanding, actually in contemplating a challenge of the observation of the moon at her north node from California versus Sydney, Australia. Actually, when I was in Orcas Island, Washington State, and wondering in which direction is Earth moving through space, which really helped me kind of ground into the directional reality of the tropical zodiac. All right, well, we have very little time yet. I want to get into some examples, and I want to talk about seasons of the moon. Seasons of the sun, pretty clear. Right. However, how does fall experienced here in the Bay Area of California, where fortunately we're having some rain right now, versus Alaska, versus, Mexico, right? All Northern Hemisphere are very different experiences of this temperament, if you will, versus, Peru versus Chile, right? So it's not just North versus South Hemisphere, though that's very important, right? The seasonal experience is an incredibly local thing. I mean, even places at this very same distance north of Earth, where I currently live, are going to have a different experience if they're on the ocean versus the sea versus completely landlocked. What is their elevation, right? Okay, seasons of the day, I'll just describe in this way. Sunrise is like spring equinox. He is risen, the resurrection. Light overcoming darkness. Now, spring equinox is different in Melbourne, Australia, than it is in Timbuktu, southern, northern hemispheres, right? Midday, sun at the MC is like summer solstice. The autumnal equinox of the day is sunset. We go into the darkness. Midnight, halfway between sunset and sunrise, when the sun roots at the Imam Cheli, the IC, the bottom of the heavens, that's like winter solstice. So the sun moving 3, 2, 1, houses 3, 2, 1, lift off, right? That's like winter. Houses 12, 11, 10, spring. Houses 9, 8, 7, summer. Actually, the fall begins in summer. And then houses 6, 5, 4, beneath the ground and going down, autumn. Winter actually begins. It's the birth of the sun, right? So sun at the IC. Now, what about the moon? And I never have enough time. So I'm going to get to some examples, but lunar thing is kind of confusing. And, I wanted to speak about temperament, right? Are you generally sanguine or melancholic, which, might be easier for the modern astrology ears to hear as airy or earthly. Sorry, airy or waterish. So temperament throughout the ages is a very important consideration, not only in like your health and experience of ailments and like the changing of the seasons, etc., but of like a transit. So a Saturn transit for somebody who's generally caloric or super fiery is going to feel more depressing than it would for somebody who's more of like the earthly temperament. So now the issue is calculation of temperament has become like a very calculated thing. And of course, as all things astrology, there's a million differing points of view. And if you want to go deep dive here, this text by Dorian Gessler Greenbaum called Temperament, Astrology's Forgotten Key is super amazing. This is showing me that I have to learn how to reverse my camera on the Instagram space. Yeah, and we get a few from like Ptolemy through William Lilly and even to more modern times, different approaches to temperament. I really love the approach that is offered here by Elena Avilar and Luis Ribeiro in On the Heavenly Spheres, a treatise on traditional astrology. This is a book I believe everyone should have that's a student of the starry happenings. And I'm really excited to get to meet Luis on Thursday, my Thursday, Yulia's Friday, for a conversation about the lunar nodes. So again, GeminiBrett.com/nodes. If you want to come play there. By the way, let me give you a hidden link on my site, GeminiBrett.com/eclipse. If you want like 20 plus hours of eclipse teachings and examples for $108. It's less than that actually, $54 for Enter the Dragon on myth and astronomy and astrology of eclipse. And then if you buy that, you'll get an offer for half price, $27 for Return of the Dragon Eclipse Cycles. 'Tis the season, highly recommended if you are good at following along with video courses. I'm not so much. All right, so seasons of the moon get a little bit confusing for me because I feel like new moon is like winter solstice. However, traditionally, when the moon is growing in light, that's like spring and summer. And so from new moon to opening quarter, we're talking about the spring. And from first quarter moon, that's the waxing half moon, to the full moon, that's like the summer. Or to speak more temperament quality, that from new moon to the waxing half moon, it's hot and wet. From the waxing half to the full, it's hot and dry. That's like summer. From full to the waning half moon, that's cold and dry, which is like autumn. And then from the waning half moon, the third quarter moon, to the next new moon, that's cold and wet. That's like winter. And I'm going to use that here, although I have some questions, because of course the full moon is the greatest light. Well, isn't that more like summer solstice than autumn equinox? Which is what like the temperaments that I described would suggest. All right, so let's do a couple examples. Stephanie here, 16 Leo rising, 22 Gemini sun, 8 Pisces moon in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so Gemini sun, 22 Gemini sun. I mean, it's almost summer solstice. And the way we do seasons now, right? This is the days getting longer and longer till the longest day at summer solstice, sun at the Tropic of Cancer, sun entering tropical Cancer. Yes, the tropical zodiac is entirely astronomical. Saw another 6 posts this morning saying it's not, you astronomically ignorant people professing astronomical intelligence. Sorry, I hate to be a dick. Anyway, so Stephanie's obviously born in the late spring. I mean, doesn't it feel summer? There's an old system where summer solstice is actually midsummer's day, and you would do summer more from like Beltane to Lammas, or let's say like sun at 15 Taurus to sun at 15 Leo, the cross quarters, with sun at 0 Cancer in between for the northern hemisphere. And there's something to that. But let's go with this idea of how we're doing seasons now when the sun is aligned to Earth's directions, and spring starts when sun is at the due east point, the north node of equator and ecliptic, which is 0 tropical, not constellational, not sidereal, tropical Aries, the astronomical zodiac. So Stephanie, born the spring of the year. All right, well, the sun is in Gemini with Leo rising. Of course, Leo likes to have Gemini on the 11th, because if I'm studying radiance, it's good to have a social experience in my place of circles. So the sun is in the 11th. Well, that's the spring of the day, which starts at sunrise and goes until summer solstice of the day, sun at the MC. All right, now we have a Pisces moon reflecting Gemini light. Importantly, she's born before the square. But which square? It's the closing square. Pisces is closing in on Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, the order of the mutable signs from Gemini's point of view. Yes? So she's born between full moon and the waning half moon. She's born waning and almost in that third quarter. But this would be, from the point of view of the tradition I just shared, the autumn of the lunation. So spring of the year, spring of the day, autumn of the lunation, to offer some balance. All right, a very short amount of time, so these are going to be quick. Maybe I'll come on for a little encore this afternoon. We'll do some more examples. Sadhvi Jen, Libra sun, Gemini moon, Scorpio risings in Brooklyn, New York. All right, Libra sun on autumn of the year, right? And it's just begun, but the sun is rapidly falling in the sky at midday, right? So Brooklyn, New York, northern hemisphere, tropical Libra sun, autumn time. Autumn in New York. They wrote the song for you. Gemini moon. How does Gemini moon reflect Libra sun to my eyes? We call that a trine, but is it waxing or waning? And the answer is waning. Aries opposes Libra, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So again, the autumn of the lunation. Autumn in New York. Scorpio ascendant. What rises first, Libra or Scorpio? And of course, the answer is Libra. The sun's in the whole sign 12th, right? It's the spring of the day. So Stephanie had spring, and autumn moon. And here we have autumn sun, autumn moon, but spring of the earth for balance, Libra. All right, last one I can do today, and I want to get this one from Instagram. And maybe again, I'll come on just for an encore of these later today. So we have a Scorpio sun, Gemini ascendant, Sagittarius. Scorpio sun, Gemini moon, Sagittarius ascendant in Toronto, Canada. So far northern hemisphere, yes? And Scorpio sun, so certainly the middle of autumn this time, right? A Gemini moon, what an interesting combination. I know someone like that. So the Gemini moon has in a place where we are now waning. It's disseminating. It's the waning gibbous, the waning quincunx between those signs, right? So that is in this tradition like the autumn of moon. So we have autumn of the year, autumn in the lunation, Sagittarius ascendant. So if Sagittarius rising, where's the Scorpio sun? It's just like last, it's 12th whole sign. It's in the spring, right? So autumn, spring. This is fun. We have like spring, autumn, spring twice, which just feels so Gemini. And I have to go have a session here at 8:30. So not only am I doing little homework, I'll do none, which actually is the way that I most prefer to come into sessions. so I can be a blank slate and just be there for my client. GeminiBrett.com/sessions. If you'd like to book a reading with me, it would be such an honor to tune into the Song of the Soul with you. GeminiBrett.com/nodes. If you want to register for free for a conversation between Yulia Simas, Luis Ribeiro, and myself, Gemini Brett, on the challenge of the observational opposition of north and south lunar nodes from the north and south hemispheres point of view. If you like this video, please like this video. Share it around. Support the work. Thanks for being here. The present of your presence is so powerful and felt.